This module will help in understanding the relationship between market structure and market performance. Structure, conduct and performance paradigm, that is the SCP paradigm. The measure of performance of a firm in terms of its efficiency. Efficiency under various market structures. Compare the structure, conduct and performance of a firm under various market forms. Understanding the relationship between market structure and performance is critical for determining effective economic policy, governing antitrust, intellectual property, industry regulation and international trade. Why are some markets dominated by a few firms even at a global scale and others remain consistently fragmented? Why are some firms able to charge prices that far exceed their cost of production while other firms can barely break even? Questions like these have occupied economists in industrial organization. One of the ways of framing these questions is to focus on the connection between market structure and market performance. This module will illustrate the relationship between market structure and market performance via the structure, conduct and performance paradigm. Performance of a firm is evaluated via profitability as well as efficiency. The previous modules discussed the various market structures and the barriers to entry as a determinant of market structure. This module will discuss the various market structures and their effect on profitability and efficiency of a firm. To begin with, it is useful to first provide some definitions, along with the empirical measures used to quantify both market structure and market performance. Performance generally refers to how competitive an industry is or how successful it is at delivering the benefits to the consumers. The main focus is on competition and its connection to profitability of firms. Competitiveness can be captured by the degree of market power, which refers to the firm's ability to set price above the cost of producing a single additional unit. A natural measure of market power is the price cost margin, which is equal to the difference of price and cost to be divided with price. Market structure refers to the identity and relative sizes of the firms that comprise an industry. Often it is captured by the market share of each firm in the industry. In industries with a large number of firms, employing a function of these shares to summarize market structure is more practical. One of the most common functions is the K firm concentration ratio, which reports the combined share of the largest K firms in the industry. Another measure, namely the Herfindahl index, which depicts the sum of the square market shares, provide a single measure of overall structure that is often employed in merger analysis. Now we can discuss about the linkages between market structure and market performance. So far in the previous modules, we studied about various market forms and the characteristics of each of them. But now we would explore the linkages between market structure and performance. There are actually two schools of thought in USA that have contested the analysis of industrial economics. The first one is structure, conduct and performance school. Market structure determines the behavior of the firms in the industry, and the behavior of firms determines the various aspects of market performance. An implication of this argument is that government should implement a high level of competition policy intended to limit strategic behavior. The SCP paradigm was developed through evaluation of empirical studies involving American industries. It didn't use any theoretical model to support the paradigm. Finally, the conclusion that was drawn from empirical studies was that market structure determined performance. The second one is Chicago School. The Chicago School is a school of free market economics. Unlike the Harvard University, from where the SCP paradigm originated, the foundations for competition analysis were based on theoretical model of neoclassical theory rather than on empirical studies. The Chicago School believed in the establishment of antitrust laws. The argument of this school is that anything one firm can do can be done by any other equally efficient firm, unless some higher power intervenes. This school argued that the main source of monopoly power is government interference in the marketplace. Government can prevent some firms from competing to the advantage of other firms. Thus, a laissez-faire policy is recommended. Now we can discuss about the structure, conduct and performance paradigm with some definitions. The structure, conduct and performance paradigm is used as an analytical framework to study the relation between market and structure, market conduct and market performance. In the 1930s, an approach was developed by a group of economists for understanding the relationship among a firm's environment, its behavior and performance. The original objective of this work was to describe conditions under which competition dynamics would not develop in an industry. Understanding when perfect competition dynamics were not developing assisted government regulators in isolating those industries in which competition enhancing regulations should be implemented. The theoretical framework that developed out of this effort became known as the structure conduct performance model. It was developed and described in 1959 by Joe S. Bain in his book Industrial Organization. Structure. Market structure is the organizational or other characteristics of a market which affect the degree of competition between firms and their pricing decisions. The term structure in this model refers to industry structure measured by such factors as the number of competitors in an industry, the heterogeneity of products and the cost of entry and exit. Conduct. The way in which buyers and sellers behave both amongst themselves and amongst each other. This includes the pricing behavior. If the structure of a market is competitive, then it determines its long run equilibrium where P is equal to MC is equal to LAC. But if it's monopolistic or oligopolistic, then P is greater than MC. The strategic behavior. Under imperfect competition, strategic producers may be able to discourage the entry of new firms. Investment in research and development and advertising. Performance. It is measured by comparing the results of firms along the industry in efficiency terms, and different ratios are used to assess different profitability levels. The variables considered at this level are such as price, quantity, product quality, allocative efficiency, production efficiency, dynamic efficiency, etc. More specifically, trends in real price levels over time, size of business profits, how much spending on research and development, does it lead to technological advance and innovation are also the concerns. Further, how much is spent on human capital and does it lead to rising labor productivity in the industry are the measures of performance. The SCP paradigm posits a one-way relation running from industry structure, that is firm concentration, to firm conduct, that is pricing, to market performance, that is profitability and innovation. The central claim was that high concentration would lead to high prices and thus high profits. Since free entry by competing firms ought to quickly erode these profits, significant barriers to entry would then be required to maintain a concentrated structure. In his earliest work, Bain associated these entry barriers with fixed economies of scale in production, that is, falling average cost, which could arguably taken as exogenous to the firm's decision-making problem, that is predetermined. Bain and later contributors to the SCP paradigm identified other industries that did not feature these production economies yet still remain concentrated due to intensive investment in advertising and or research and development. For example, the soft drink industry has remained remarkably concentrated for many decades despite little required investment in fixed cost of production. Instead, there is an intense rivalry in advertising outlay required to effectively build and maintain a national brand. The SCP literature was also successful in identifying a strong empirical regularity, the impact of increased competition on prices. The hypothesis that a fall in market concentration leads to a fall in prices found strong empirical support. Structure and conduct are both determined by demand conditions and technology. Structure affects conduct, but conduct, strategic behavior also affects structure. Structure and conduct interact to determine performance. Performance in turn feeds back on technology and structure. Progressiveness molds the available technology. Profitability, which determines how attractive it is to enter the market, has a dynamic effect on market structure. The SCP approach states that performance should be determined by the conduct of organizations. This conduct is then determined by the characteristics of market structures. The relationships between structure, conduct and performance will then match the models of monopoly, perfect competition, oligopoly and monopolistic competition. Thus, the SCP paradigm establishes a relationship between the performances of firms under various market structures. As discussed earlier, a firm's performance is evaluated through its profitability as well as efficiency. For example, allocative productive efficiency, etc. We now discuss these various forms of efficiency in detail and determine the performance of a firm under different market structures. For example, perfect competition, imperfect competition, etc. in terms of its profitability as well as its efficiency. Efficiency as a measure of performance. There are different types of efficiency. These can be discussed here. Number one is productive efficiency. Productive efficiency is concerned with producing goods with the optimal combination of inputs to produce maximum output for the minimal cost. To be productively efficient means the economy must be producing on its production possibility frontier. That is, it is impossible to produce more of one good without producing less of another. Figure 1 plots the production possibility curve of an economy producing two goods 1 and 2. Here, point A and B lying on the PPC or the production possibility curve are productively efficient, but point C is inefficient as it lies within the PPC, and here we could produce more of two goods with no opportunity cost. A firm is said to be productively efficient when it is producing at the lowest point on the average cost curve, where the marginal cost meets the average cost. The second one is allocative efficiency. It occurs at an output level where the price equals the marginal cost, that is MC of production. This is because the price that consumers are willing to pay is equivalent to the marginal utility that they get. Therefore, the optimal distribution is achieved when the marginal utility of the good equals the marginal cost. It occurs when goods and services are distributed according to consumer preferences. The allocative concept is built around the idea of Pareto optimality. a scenario where we cannot make someone better off without making someone else worse off. The allocative concept states that it is good to reach Pareto optimality because there the mix of commodities which are produced match the mix of commodities which are desired by the consumers. Any point on the PPC is productively efficient because by definition the PPC is the maximum level of output where all inputs are fully employed and productively efficient. However, only one point on the PPC is allocatively efficient because only one combination of outputs will exactly match consumers' demand. On any other point, a trade-off could be made in order to better one group of consumers without making anyone worse off. At the point of allocative efficiency, no one can be made better off. The third one is X efficiency. X efficiency occurs when competitive pressures cause firms to combine the optimum combinations of factor of production. X efficiency occurs when firms do not have incentives to cut cost. For example, a monopoly which makes supernormal profits may have little incentive to get rid of surplus labor. Therefore, a firm's average cost may be higher than necessary. The causes of X efficiency. The first is monopoly power. A monopoly faces little or no competition. Therefore, it might be easy for the monopolist to make supernormal profits. Therefore, in the absence of competitive pressures, they may not try very hard to control cost. The second reason is state control. A nationalized firm owned by the government may face little or no incentive to try and make profit. Therefore, it has less incentive to try and cut cost. Now let us discuss about market structure and efficiency. After having discussed the various types of efficiency, we now evaluate the performance of firms under various market structures with perfect competition, monopoly, etc. in the terms of different types of efficiency. Efficiency under perfect competition. Under perfect competition, all firms in the long run produce at the minimum point of average cost. Also, all firms in perfect competition face the same prices and at the minimum point of average cost level, marginal cost equals the price for all firms. Thus, firms under perfect competition are productively efficient. Figure 2 traces the long run equilibrium for a perfectly competitive firm. Under perfect competition, the demand curve facing the firm is perfectly elastic and is equal to its marginal revenue. Here, the firm is producing at the minimum point of its long run average total cost, and at the equilibrium point, P is equal to MC is equal to AC. Perfect competition and allocative efficiency. In perfect competition, firms maximize their profits by producing where the price is equal to the marginal cost, or say the marginal cost pricing. This will guarantee Pareto optimality in all firms are in perfect competition as there is no deadweight social loss. So, both consumers and producer surpluses are maximized. Any output less than or greater than the equilibrium output reduces the total sum of producers and consumer surplus. Thus, under perfect competition, firms are both productively and allocatively efficient. Efficiency under imperfect competition. Under imperfect competition, a firm faces a downward sloping demand curve as well as the marginal revenue curve. Under such conditions, the firm wants to maximize its profits by restricting its output. In equilibrium, a firm may not necessarily produce at the minimum point of its long run average cost. Thus, the firm is productively inefficient under imperfect competition. Also, a firm is allocatively efficient in the long run under imperfect competition. This is because the firm faces a downward sloping demand curve and its marginal revenue is less than the average revenue. Equilibrium occurs where marginal revenue equals the marginal cost curve. Marginal revenue falls much more quickly than average revenue or price as output increases, and thus price will be greater than the marginal cost at the equilibrium output level. Since price is greater than MC, firms are allocatively inefficient under imperfect competition. Figure 3 plots the equilibrium of a monopoly firm. Here, both the AR and MR curves are downward sloping, and equilibrium occurs at an output level where MR is equal to MC. Since P is greater than AC is greater than MC at the equilibrium output level, thus the firm under monopoly is neither productive nor allocatively efficient. Now let us summarize what we have learned from this module. The structure, conduct and performance paradigm, that is SCP, is used as an analytical framework to study the relation between market structure, market conduct and market performance. Market structure determines the behavior of firms in the market, and the behavior of firms determines the various aspects of market performance. Structure refers to industry structure measured by factors such as number of competitors in an industry, the heterogeneity of products and the cost of entry and exit. Conduct refers to the way in which buyers and sellers both behave among themselves and amongst each other. This includes pricing behavior and strategic behavior. Structure affects conduct, but conduct strategic behavior also affects structure. Structure and conduct interact to determine performance. Performance of a firm is evaluated by both its profitability and efficiency. There are various kinds of efficiency, viz. Allocative and productive. Productive efficiency occurs when the firm is producing at the lowest point of its average cost curve. Allocative efficiency occurs at an output level where price equals to the marginal cost of production. A firm under perfect competition is both productively and allocatively efficient, whereas under imperfect competition it is neither productively nor allocatively efficient.